It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
It's time for another weekly edition of A Cup of Coffee with Will and Chris right here from Slumberland at the lake. I'm Wild Will.
I'm Uncle Chris.
And the Chiefs are Super Bowl champs yet again.
Unbelievable. Probably the fourth, maybe the fifth best team in the NFL, but they have the it factor. Like you were telling me yesterday, they have the it factor, and you're right.
When we say it, we mean Patrick Mahomes. We're going to talk about that, of course, our favorite commercial we saw. Plus, we talked about Lieutenant Colonel John Carl Marks of the United States Air Force. He flew the Warthog, the A-10, more than anybody else in the history of our United States military. We attended a pretty special event. We'll tell you about that. Of course, Eagle Days a few weeks ago set record in attendance. The toll bridge is no more.
Wow.
Plus, state legislation right now would offer students in Missouri the opportunity to enroll at neighboring schools.
Interesting.
We'll talk about pros and cons and what that means. Plus, we've got some great events coming up right here on Lake TV. But first, we're through the Super Bowl, which could only mean one thing. It's time for the Slumberland at the Lake President's Day sale.
Hey everybody, it's Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We're in the middle of our President's Day sale. What does that mean? That means great deals for furniture in every room at the house. Dining room, living room, bedroom, we've got it all. Great deals, great discounts, interest-free financing up to 36 months. And don't forget, we deliver the entire lake area. That's Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
All right, and make sure you come by and see those doorbusters this weekend. Man, there's going to be some great sales. Walk in the door, carry it out with you. And when you stop in, tell them that Wild Will and Uncle Chris sent you. So now we told you the last couple weeks about the really cool event the Rotary was putting on.
Yep.
Lieutenant Colonel John Carl Marks with the United States Air Force. He was celebrated and had a presentation a couple weeks ago at the Encore. And have you ever heard of the Thunderbolt or the A-10 or the Warthog?
I have, yeah, a lot about that.
Real popular, you know. And this individual, Lieutenant Colonel John Carl Marks, has flown it more than anyone else in the history of the military. He was assigned to the 442nd Fighter Wing at a Whitman Air Force Base. He made history in September of 21, Chris, when he became the only pilot to reach 7,000 hours in the A-10 Thunderbolt, in addition to becoming one of the highest time fighter pilots in the U.S. Air Force. His resume includes 13 combat deployments in multiple theaters of operation, including Desert Storm, the Iraqi invasion, 6 deployments to Afghanistan, and he is known for destroying 23 Iraqi tanks in one day back in 1991.
Wow.
He had a presentation at the main bar of Encore, Lakeside Grill and Sky Bar, on the 26th of January, and the place was packed. He actually had video footage of him in combat, blowing stuff up from buildings and cars and people. I mean, it was interesting to watch. It's very real. I mean, stuff that is a reality that takes place. War is real. And his numbers, 7,000 hours. 3,610 sorties, 358 combat sorties in the A-10.
Wow.
Just incredible. That's Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hodges with the 303 Fighter Squadron commander as he presented him with his 7,000-hour play. 7,000 hours. Just phenomenal. It was such a cool event. The Rotary put that on. Big shout out to Dawn and Merlin Vandervoort. Big shout out to Bob Avery and Tiffany Mawson, especially Bob Avery with the Rotary. He was really instrumental putting this together. He helped us with great footage and photos, as you see. And, you know, I just didn't realize when somebody's in the military, everybody has different branches and different responsibilities. But if you're in the Air Force or you're in the Navy or one where you would have to be in the air, you don't think about how much maybe. And that was hard for me to grasp. 7,000 hours.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you think about taking a flight in a commercial airplane that's traveling much slower, right? That seems kind of like, man, that's a pain, right? 5-6 hours, 7,000 hours. Something you have to be born to do, kind of cut from a different cloth. And like I said, war is essential in the world we live in. But it was weird, you know, we're sitting at the Encore, in America, which is beautiful. That place is kind of Americana at its finest.
It is. Great place.
Enjoying our freedoms, and the very reality of it is to enjoy those freedoms, this takes place. And so to see that, this violence, this death, this just what's taking place, and to see all these free Americans enjoying their Friday evening, cheering, and it's like, man, a lot of people aren't able to enjoy that freedom, including the ones on the other end of those videos. I didn't know what exactly to feel or think, but it was reality. That's what happens in war, and I was like, man, this is violent. Well, that is war.
Yeah, there's an old saying that freedom isn't free. So true. We wouldn't be free if it weren't for people like that sacrificed 7,000 hours in the air, and a lot of people sacrificed their lives, over the centuries for us to be free, and it is very sobering. Yeah.
Sure. Well, we did want to highlight that. It was really cool. So a lot of people at the event. Man, that's a pretty neat venue there.
Oh, love it. And I love Merlin and Dawn. They are such neat people. They're going to be coming on the Community Spotlight show here in a few weeks. That'll be a lot of fun. Great people, great history, but the encore is something special.
Be awesome. And we've actually got a pretty cool event coming up we'll tell you about in the coming weeks at the Encore as well. Okay, so as we move on to local headlines, some big ones this week.
Yeah.
Uncle Chris, you saw the toll bridge is going away officially.
Wow, and you kind of broke the news to me, when you sent me the information. I'm like, you're kidding, wow. So Lake of the Ozarks Community Bridge, we all know about it, right? Announces its intent to terminate the collection of tolls charged to vehicle traffic at the bridge there, effective right around April 30th. So right at the end of April, of course, it's the 16-mile marker on the water. Community Bridge anticipates that adequate funds to be generated on or about April 30th to fully pay off the outstanding mortgage, bonds, and other remaining liabilities on that bridge there. The bridge will transfer to the state of Missouri, right? So the state of Missouri, MoDOT, I'm guessing, will take over control of the bridge and maintenance of the bridge and everything. The bridge was opened in 1998. That was before I got here. You were here back then, right? And that was a big deal to give that another way across the water, over to the other side of the lake. So it was previously estimated the bridge would be toll-free in 2026. So we're about, 2 years ahead of schedule on this, and they say, over 35 million vehicles have crossed the community bridge since 1998. Wow. 35 million vehicles. There's a whole lot of money there, man.
And in the summer months, from April to early October, it's $3 and goes back down. So if you used an average of $2.50, $2.50, I mean, you're looking at $105 million in tolls that's created. Now, the bridge was initially set to be paid off in 2026, so this is 2 years earlier than initially anticipated. A lot of people were like, it should have been paid off a long time ago, not realizing, no, this was pretty well planned, and we're fortunate. We're actually getting 2 years free based on their initial projections and calculations. So that's great, gonna save a lot of us a lot of money, and I wanted to give a shout out to the toll bridge staff. I'll tell you what, from their leaders, Jim and Eric, and then all of the gals and guys, Keith and Mary and both Kathys, and I mean, it's pretty incredible how awesome they are. And here's the deal. For us, we go through the toll, we've got something else on our mind. We're busy, we're headed somewhere, but the toll staff always gets to have a touch in our day when you go over the bridge. And for our staff, Lake TV, it would equate to hundreds of thousands of trips over the last 10 years over that bridge. And I would say they always have done their best to make it a pleasant encounter. And it's not always easy because you deal with the worst of people, right? People are like, this bridge is stupid. Well, can I come back? And there's rules and people don't always respond to not getting the answer they like. But huge shout out because the toll bridge staff has become such a part of our days and a lot of your days. And so I want to encourage you guys over the next 10 weeks, I would encourage, bring some donuts, cinnamon rolls, a card, some hot chocolate, coffee, just something to let them know that you wanted to thank them and appreciate them for what they did. Because all that toll staff now, they're figuring out plans of what they're gonna do next, and great people, they'll land on their feet, and the toll bridge doing a good job to make sure they're taken care of with a severance package as well. But it's good news for us that go over it all the time. because it adds up, doesn't it?
Oh, you would know because, you pay the Lake TV bill of all of people going across that bridge all the time, and it does add up to a lot of money. I'm amazed at how much you know the name of every person that works at the toll bridge. It's stunning to me how you get along with so many people and know so many people.
Well, the thing is, that is one of the most important things to people is their name and saying their name. And so something I've always practiced is trying to learn people's names. When you first hear their name, it's a good rule to say their name 3 or 4 times.
Try to get it in there.
Repeat it. Oh, well, It's nice to meet you, Uncle Chris. And so what are you doing for dinner, Uncle Chris? And well, what's your favorite sports team, Uncle Chris? You say it. So as I'm looking at you, it sticks and you'll remember it. And there are some awesome toll staff that have been there for a long time. And they make a difference when you go over the bridge, and they're kind. And we got a card the other day from their staff in the Lake TV P.O. box to thank us for always being so nice.
That's a better way to do it than me. It's like I usually, hey you, hey, thanks buddy, appreciate it. Hey man, how you doing?
Right.
I don't remember names real well, right? So it's like, hey dude,
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, another local headline. That's a big one. We saw that all over. Lake News Online initially broke the story. I went live right outside the toll bridge about 2:30. I went over and Kathy, she was nice enough to tell me, she's like, hey, April 30th, it's official, 10 weeks. And I'm like, can I announce it? Can I say you told me? And she's like, yes. And I was like, all right. I pulled over and did the live. And I'll tell you what, people responded, and everybody's really excited about that because, like I said, gonna be some ample savings. All right, so Eagle Days, it was a couple months, it was in January, it was last month, and they set a record in attendance this year. This according to press release from Michelle Cook with the Eagle Days Committee. On January 6th, the excellent crowds enjoyed new features. Approximately 2,000 people attended the event between the 4 locations, which is pretty great. Of course, you had Osage National with the World Bird Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Have you been to Eagle Days? Because I know you love birds, right?
I love birds. Yeah, I mean, those things are so cool. I've never been to Eagle Days, though. No.
That shocks me.
I need to do that.
Honestly, it's always on Saturday, and you and Michelle would have so much fun. You get to go out to the Bagnell Dam, and you get to look out. Then the Wild Bird Sanctuary, they have owls and eagles, like right here, that you can get this close to. And you would not believe, you see some of these
They're big
American
birds,
bald
right?
eagles.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Huge.
With
So
their
cool.
wings, closed, because their wingspan makes them look massive.
Yeah.
But even just sitting there from talon to the top of their head, they are just, massive creatures. I'm shocked that you have never been to Eagle Days.
I know. I need to get out there and do that because we would love that. That'd be cool.
You do. You love birds, and that would be perfect for you. I did want to shout out the photo contest winners. Debbie Lucia won 1st grade. Chandra Ruerks won 2nd grade. 3rd grade, Jeff Don, age 5. Daisy, age 6. Destin, age 7. Axel John, age 8. Age 9 went to Jenna. Britton took home the age 10 prize. Adrian, age 8. And Kennedy took home the age 12, Isabella took home the age 12. And that was for their annual photo contest they do with Eagle Days. So you got to give all the kids a shout out. But good job to Michelle and the event organizers. The Lake of the Ozarks Eagle Days, it's changed when it takes place. It used to be a 2-day event. So that first Saturday in January is when they're having that moving forward. So you can go ahead and set your calendar for 2025. First Saturday in January, make sure you put that down on your
I do need to put
calendar.
that down. Problem with that is that's usually when we get NFL playoffs, So
Right.
it's like,
It is true. We're torn
Yeah.
what to do. All right, so hey, I don't want to go too far into this because I want to get some expert opinion and gather some more. But I saw that the Missouri Open Enrollment bill would allow Missouri kids to enroll in neighboring school districts. So the bill, sponsored by Representative Bill Pullett, a Republican from Sedalia, described his proposal as a minor proposal compared to what others want to do. He goes on to say the status quo says the bill goes too far. The reform says it doesn't go far enough. A nearly identical bill passed the House in an 85-68 vote last year, just 3 more than a constitutional majority of the chamber. It's new to legislation this year, and its creation of an online portal is the new part that would track the number of students who had applied to enroll in sistering school districts. So this would allow for a kid living in the Osage School District that his parents want him to go to Camdenton and pay that out of district tuition. That tuition would go away, and with limitation and rules, there would be the allowance to go to another school district, even if you live within the district of another. And so I think there's initially on the surface Chris, there's pros and there's cons of this, right? I could see, well, this is great, right? Maybe you're actual in closer proximity to Camdenton, but where your Lake Road sits, you live in the Versailles School District. So those things, or having the choice, maybe you like a school district that maybe has more options, more funding, and that would allow you to maybe make that choice. But I see some potential problems with this, right?
Big time. If you're a college football fan, they brought in the portal, where it allows students to pretty much transfer at will whenever they want to, wherever they want to, and it's created chaos in college football. So much so they joke about it on the commercials, right?
Yeah. Dr. Pepper commercials.
Yeah, that's one I was thinking of. And this is
kind
of the same idea. It's not quite as wide open and crazy, but it's kind of the same idea. And I did talk to a couple of coaches recently about this, and they're not for it because it would create some of that chaos. And, if you get schools, sports programs, and they're recruiting kids, they might steal some away from Camdenton or Osage or Eldon and Versailles to bring them over to, some other school. And it could be a big problem. And, that's looking at it from one aspect. From another aspect, there are some positives to it. Maybe your kid, the school you're going to, it doesn't offer, some of the activities that your kid loves to do. In that sense, it would be a great thing. So just like everything else, pros and cons, and people would screw it up, try to take advantage of it and, bring the dark side out of it. But like I say, for the coaches that I have talked to, they're not too excited about this.
Yeah, and that's one of the initial cons that I see. Also, funding and having enough faculty per student. I mean, obviously the portal would indicate how many are coming in, and hopefully you would plan. I did want to say, Pollitt placed a 3% cap on the number of students who can leave a district annually under open enrollment, meaning, so if you have 100 students that year, only 3% of them would be able to leave. So once 3 leave your district, no more are eligible to leave the district, and that's interesting. He proposed a 1% cap for districts with a high number of students qualifying for free or reduced lunch, which is going to greatly affect our local school districts, meaning, hey, if you have a high poverty level, if you have a certain percentage of your students that qualify reduced or free lunch, Camdenton and Osage, Versailles, Eldon, California, Tipton, all of those districts have very high reduced and free lunch percentages, that cap would be 1%, meaning that would be even more limited here at the Lake Area School. He did remove the 1% cap upon advice from a caucus policy committee, and so I guess that wouldn't stay in. They've got some work to do with this, and I looked at this and said there's pros, there's cons, but I don't have any dog in the fight. My kids aren't in school. My daughter is not old enough to be in public school yet. She will be by the time this passes. And so I was looking at the pros and cons, but I thought we ought to talk to some experts. And so I've reached out to Dr. Sean Kirksey with the Camdenton School District, and we're going to have a conversation this week so I can share some better info with you guys on his take, as well as I spoke with Brad Yoder, who's the assistant superintendent with the District of Osage, and he mimicked a lot of the same things you said, Chris, about the coaching, that listen, you'd have schools start to kind of become basketball schools where it's like, hey, those twins or those brothers are there, so we're going to take their star player and their star player, and we're going to create a dream team and surely have a state championship run. That's already a concern by the districts that you could see. And so those cap numbers seem to be important elements here because that would maybe keep that honest or keep a handle on that.
And a part of the problem, too, in the state of Missouri is the private schools already do that. Yeah. They already go out and recruit. You get your Cardinal Ritters and your Heliases and stuff like that. They can go out and try to cherry pick players from other schools to come to their private schools, and that is not fair to the public schools. The state of Missouri's tried to combat that a little bit by, raising them up in the classes, even if they're a smaller school. If they're recruiting players, they're putting them up in a higher class. So it's not a perfect system for sure.
No, and we'll see it. It'll change, and it'll continually change as times move forward. But Chris, what's interesting to me is to think that at the high school level, that it's very realistic that you and I could resign and now go start as the Versailles Director of Recruitment, and we could turn that into even a higher level powerhouse.
You
school.
could, because you know everybody in the state, you'd be perfect for that.
How about the Versailles Tigers, man? You see Ryder drop 63 points the other night?
Amazing. That is a really good team. We got to do their game in Versailles a couple weeks ago. They are a really good team, and most of them are seniors, so this is the year.
This is the year. You talk about that Super Bowl window. I mean, for Versailles, this is a lot of power. They're going to graduate, so it will be interesting to see. They're 19-3 so far this year, and really, it's a good district for them. They've got a decent sectional. They got a shot, so we'll keep you posted as we stick with the sports theme. The Super Bowl champions, once again, your Kansas City Chiefs.
How about that? I am amazed at my power of picking against a team. Whenever I pick against them, they're almost assured to win, right?
Will you start picking against Buffalo every week next year for me?
I need to do that, yeah.
Well, the final score, as you guys saw, 25-22, overtime thriller, the exact same play, back-to-back Super Bowls. You bring the receiver out of the slot
Corn
in
dog,
motion.
right?
You fake the handoff, you roll to the right, you have your receiver going into the flat. Unbelievable. Last year was Kadarius Toney. This year, that wasn't Scantling, it was Mekhi Hardman.
Yeah. And
awesome.
Hardman wasn't even on the team to start the year. He was a New York Jet.
And he's a former Chief, drafted by the Chiefs in 2019. And so for him to come back and have that moment, but Mahomes won the MVP.
Yeah, and he should have.
Yep.
I mean, unlike, we talked about it last week when they beat the 49ers 4 years ago, Mahomes was the MVP, but he shouldn't have been. It was Adrian Williams or somebody like that. The running back.
Oh, Damian Williams.
Damian Williams, who he deserved to be the MVP of that Super Bowl. Didn't get it, went to Mahomes. Patrick deserved it this time.
333 yards passing, 66 yards rushing, the 2 touchdowns, and none bigger than his 2 runs on that final drive. When his team needed him most, Patrick Mahomes did what Patrick Mahomes does, and he puts people on his back. But I'm worried about his back because he's had Andy Reid on his back now for 6 years, and there's going to be some problems coming from that.
Yeah, and you wonder. I mean, I was watching that first half, and the Chiefs were very vanilla. They weren't doing anything special. It's like, Andy, what are you doing, right? And again, I think the team, Patrick and Kelsey and the rest of the guys kind of picked up Big Red on this one and I think the players are making Andy Reid a better coach. But on the other hand, they probably wouldn't be as great as they are without what he does too. So they really need each. It's just like Belichick wouldn't have been the greatest coach of all time if Tom Brady wasn't on that team, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Sure, I think Andy Reid, you could take a step further, and on next week's Cup of Coffee, I'm going to tell you guys why, if it's not for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid wouldn't crack the top 50 greatest NFL head coaches of all time without him. He might actually be the greatest choke artist in the history of NFL head coaching if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Love the guy, super likable. I got to say, I love the way he handled the Travis Kelce thing.
Yeah.
None of us know what it's like in the heat of battle, right? And you're competing for a Super Bowl. There is a special relationship there where those players have that leash, like 4 years ago with Wasp. The players calling the plays from the sideline. No one was mad about the players overruling the coaches and calling their own plays.
Right, yeah.
And so in that moment, Andy Reid, you saw, he was actually apologizing to Travis. There's something to learn from that spirit of, becoming more humble down there where you're not over top of everybody, and it's worked. So,
and I think that's the genius of Andy Reid. It's not he's such a great X's and O's coach or even a motivator coach. It's how he brings them all together and keeps them all together. That's the genius of Andy Reid.
Because, there's 50, over the last 3 or 4 years, I can think of 50 head coaches that on the spot bench that player and make it about you. I'm going to prove a point. I'm not getting humiliated on national TV. I'm the top dog.
Right.
I'm the head coach.
Yep.
You're going to listen to me. Andy Reid doesn't have that. And because of that, Travis Kelce, after being held to 1 yard, had 99 yards or 93 yards in the second half.
9 catches. Yeah, absolutely. He was huge. But that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
They've got the coach who's good enough to keep them all together and playing together, and the players who are great enough to make the coach look good. I mean, it's a special group.
That's true. All right, so real quick, I wanted to talk about, there were so many Super Bowl commercials, and I'm not even going to bore you guys with my take on the politics and the halftime show and all of the Taylor Swift stuff, but I did see a commercial I really liked from State Farm. Check it out.
Agent State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut. Hey, Arnold, I'm hearing neighbor. It's neighbor.
That's what I said. Neighbor.
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 Hey, let's go again.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut.
Now what?
Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor. Just like it's written on the paper. Neighbor! That was the sheep. And you know it. Neighbor.
Still no.
Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Bah.
Bar.
Bah! This lane is in labor.
Cut. Arnold, got a bit of a script change. You'll love this.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good
neighbor, State Farm is there.
You are a backstabber.
I am a backstabber.
Like a good neighbor. Wasn't that great?
That was great. You know, and we don't get enough of that from Hollywood anymore. It's very creative. They did a great job on that.
And it resonates with so many generations because you have Arnold and you have Danny DeVito and you have the Twins movie from the late 80s, early 90s, and that's what we all thought of when we saw that. And maybe times were simpler back then, but what that did was it evoked great emotion for us, great memories, great period of time. It was funny and it was just relatable. I thought that was really well done. And you don't see enough of those during Super Bowl Sunday anymore.
By the way, that Super Bowl reports are now that it was the most watched television program in United States history.
Wow. And it's only getting more popular with sports betting and where sports are heading. So that will continue to break records every year.
Yep.
Hey, so if you're looking for stuff on Lake TV on our Community Spotlight show with COMC, it's COMC's own Dawn Ellen Schneider, and she's a new doctor with them, correct?
Got the same last name as me. Yeah. She actually runs their community programs. She's the community director. She's not a doctor, but she's one of those people in the organization that's just so important to make sure that COMC offers each community what they need. So it's a pretty special lady.
Awesome. You can hear from her. Also, Happy Hour with DJ Kyle every day on Lake TV. And high school basketball, just 4 games left. We had one Tuesday night as you're watching this, just leaving 3 on the schedule. Hard to believe high school basketball season is wrapping up. And hey, listen, next week, we're going to have Jeff Tegedoff with Tegedoff Development and Skyview Partners right here on Cup of Coffee to talk about what's going on with Oasis at Lakeport, the development, the Lakewood condos, and we're going to finally get to hear from the developer himself. So really excited about that. Tune in to next week's Cup of Coffee. And before we go, I wanted to offer my final thoughts this week. Now, Chris, it's easy in a world of social media and being in the public eye, we like people to see the best of us, right? Mm-hmm. The best photo, we get awarded, we get promoted, our daughter or son wins an award, we show that, right? So looking on the outside, things look pretty good, but at the end of the day, it's over. We're always left with ourself, our thoughts, and the ultimate truth. What our life really looks like. Mm-hmm. Not what we show people, but in our heart, in our mind, in our homes, what our life really looks like this. And one of these truths that I think we're gonna come to is we're all settling. We're all settling to some degree. We're convincing ourselves, or we've already convinced ourselves, that we've peaked, right? We're in adulthood. We've got our job, we've got our house, we've got our kids. Now let's just go work 8 to 5, and I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm gonna argue that each and every one of us is capable of so much more. We underestimate ourselves and kind of just, like I said, settle, like we're good, we've got it good enough. But what if I were to tell you that our health could obviously be better, we know that, right? But some of the things we don't think about, what about our marriage? What about our relationship with our mom and our dad or our siblings? What about our friendships with the people that we say we're friends with? Do we reach out and make a difference in their lives? Are we a good child to our parents? How about professional at work? Of course, health, finances, and certainly not spiritually. I don't think we're all where we want to be. And I would say that each and every one of us underestimates the power of who it is that we could become. And so I'll leave you with this week. Paul, speaking to the church of Philippi, said this. I think it's incredibly powerful in Philippians 3:13. Brethren, I count not myself to have it all apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things behind me and reaching forth unto the things which are to come. A great message from Paul saying, I don't have it all figured out, but I continue to move forward, to become better, to get more access into godly things. And so that would be my final thought this week, that each and every one of us is capable of a whole lot more than what we're bringing to the table right now, and we should be in search of just that. Thanks for watching this week's Cup of Coffee from Slumberland at the Lake.